Let's talk politics. We have 14th District State Representative Gina Mosbrucker on the phone this morning. Good morning, ma'am. How are you?
I am excellent. How are you? Good morning.
We are approaching excellent ourselves. We can see it from here. We hope to get there.
That's a good day.
That's right. Thanks for some time this morning. And we're anxious to hear how you're going to solve all the problems of Washington State in a 12-minute window. Go.
Yeah, exactly. Jeez. We want to talk COVID. We certainly want to talk about your domestic violence bill on how that's going to help folks. And the governor has advanced only 7. I guess we got to start there. COVID. We want to get to phase 2. The governor has advanced only 7 counties and pretty much left all of eastern and central Washington into phase 1. What are we doing? How can we move to phase 2?
Well, that's a very important question that we've been asking for about a year now. So I think that just, doing what you do. Yakima's been a role model of listening. You've got great teams there with the mayor's office and the county commissioners who are fighting to make sure that, we're being heard from Eastern Washington, and that's what you can continue to do. People reaching out to the governor's office, reaching out to us to give us some talking points as to boots on the ground of people that are working really hard, wearing masks. Businesses have had to be resilient, and they've had to recreate themselves, and most of them have exhausted their savings, especially the small businesses. So we're battling 110%, trying to make sure that we're saving those businesses as fast and as quick as possible. We think that they can open safely. We see it successfully in other businesses, and there's no reason if you can open Costco or Walmart that you can't open a small business in town to safely open as well.
State House approving a COVID relief bill Monday night, with most Republicans voting no, saying it doesn't go far enough to provide real relief. Do you feel that the same way?
I do. I mean, obviously, we all want relief as quick as possible, but we put forward a proposal that was $4 billion. The other side put one that's 2.2, and all federal money. We have a rainy day fund. We're saying this is a rainy day. It doesn't get much more rainy than this, and it's pouring, and we have to use those funds and get them out to businesses as quick as possible. We were giving $825 million to school districts. They were giving $600 million. It was just a matter of priorities and rental assistance for tenants as well as landlords, so they can keep their rentals in the system. We have housing shortage, and when tenants aren't paying rent, landlords often have a mortgage that goes with it, and so we have to consider both of them. We've given a lot of money for just a lot of different things, and felt like that we could have gone a lot farther quicker in order to get relief to the people who need it most.
But some people are saying $2 billion is better than nothing.
No, but we have 4, and people are struggling. We have struggling families, businesses. We've got, we think immediately we need to do safe school reopenings, and schools need dollars to do that. There's a lot of data and studies showing that we can do that safely. I have a bill on mental health and suicide of our youth that I testified on yesterday, and it's devastating, the numbers, and how when these kids are isolated, they're not able to socialize, and they have so many losses with education, social time with friends. They lost the connection to mental health services in schools, and they lost, the opportunity to do the things that they'd always looked forward to. There's a lot of depression. We feel like this is an emergency, and ours had a lot of money for vaccine administration, getting that out to those who want the vaccine as quick as possible in a really large way.
Some of the things that I know that you're working hard on I'm very curious about creating a task force. House Bill 1350 would create a task force to identify the role of the workplace in helping curb domestic violence. Know that you were pretty much successful with this bill last year, right?
I was. It fully passed unanimously in the House and the Senate, and then got to the governor's desk, and it hit right when COVID hit, and we were finding about what we needed to do. And so he vetoed 147 bills, and this was one of them. And I completely understood. He knew I'd bring it back this year, and that's where we're at. So it has a hearing today in the Labor Committee, but the argument is that oftentimes, sadly, the only place these survivors can go safely is work. And if that's the only place they can go, then maybe there's a way that we can find a nexus to get them help. Many survivors are scared to go home. They're scared for their kids when they get home from school. And domestic violence is increased due to the staying home for a year, basically,
Yeah.
Much longer than they ever had. People have lost their jobs. Substance abuse is up, and we're seeing a big increase in domestic violence. We have to step in and find solutions and find paths for these survivors to get free from their perpetrator and perpetrator to get help or whatever they need to make sure they learn what a healthy relationship is.
So maybe I missed the point about what actually would take place in the workplace. I mean, if I'm an employer and I'm managing deadlines and my plate is full with COVID-related stuff and all of that, what am I going to be tasked with doing? Putting posters up or what?
Yeah, we already have posters up that says all we're asking the employer to do is simply put up a poster that has numbers for them to call if they want help. We're not asking them to get involved as far as, counseling, things like that, because there's experts out there. But currently there's a poster that we ask that you hang up that's supplied by the state. You can print it out or we can send it to you. I have laminated ones here even. And it simply says this is the number you call, because a lot of times these workers will walk past there. Every employer is required to have an area for employee information. We're just asking to hang up that poster. But we feel like there's an opportunity to do more, and we don't know what that looks like. The great thing is this will have survivors, it'll have employers, and they'll be able to find a path forward to make sure. We're not asking for a big fiscal, a lot of money, a lot of time. We're just asking if this is the only safe place you get to go in order to help pay rent or your house payment, then maybe there's an answer in there that we can do to make sure you get home safely or you get to a place where you're safe.
Good help, yeah. Hey, yeah, I mean, whatever can be done to help those. We have certainly had some terrible situations around here, domestic violence situations, and we just recently had one just last month. So, yeah, it was just terrible. I don't mean to be jumping around here, but I know that you're a busy lady. You got a lot of house bills out there, and we were talking about COVID. I should have just jumped on this before we talked about domestic, but you have House Bill 1244 that would prohibit civil penalties for first-time violations of basically the emergency proclamations, right? Are we talking about businesses or residents or both?
We are talking about eliminating the civil penalties. So what's happening is that labor and industry is traveling the state, and they're looking for infractions due to COVID at businesses. And the argument with this legislation is that this isn't fair because we're moving those guidelines continually with the phases that are changing constantly. How does a business owner who's trying to figure out how to make it through this with less customer base and with those still costs that are coming down, of course, the rent, the taxes, how are they going to make it when they keep getting these fines of $8,000 or $10,000 because they didn't know something? So this bill simply says on that first visit or that first inspection by a labor and industry officer, they are not allowed to fine you. They can only educate you and to give you the tools that you need in order to meet the guidelines, which are continually moving. I mean, it's hard for legislators to keep up. It's really hard for businesses to keep up when primarily they're working the shifts themselves because they can't afford employees, because we don't, when you have a restaurant that only does takeout, it doesn't pay the bills. I mean, that's the reality of it. And we need to make sure that we're not harming our businesses. A third of the hotels across the nation, I was briefed recently, are closed just because we don't have that, that non-essential travel is not okay anymore.
Yeah.
So how do we save these businesses and these restaurants so that when we get past this, we've got a place to go? And so there's a lot of money in these packages trying to reach out to businesses, but not everyone qualifies. We hear these big numbers about, the governor's office doing this money for businesses, but there's many businesses that just don't fit the criteria, and we have to think of them too. So this bill says you can inspect because we know we want people to be safe, employees and customers, but you cannot fine them on that first visit. You need to at least explain what the latest guidelines are and to educate.
That sure seems commonsensical, and we appreciate that sort of approach.
Yeah.
One way to generate more money is to save money on other endeavors. Like, for example, if we were to, I don't know, say, decriminalize drugs, all of a sudden we're not spending all of our time pursuing bad people with drugs. What do you make of that? Just south of good
Oregon,
old
yeah.
Washington State. You have any thoughts?
Yeah, I don't know. I think that I have the privilege of being moved into the ranking position in public safety, and this is a extremely challenging committee. This is a committee that I had never even sat on before, and so it's been a really big learning curve. But it has to do with exactly what you're saying. What do we do to enforce the laws that are here, and at the same time, how do we make sure that the system's affordable? I don't know the answer to that one. I'm still diving into all this, but public safety is about our police officers, and police reform is the top priority for Democrats in the House, and so we're doing everything we can to. Personally, we should not defund the police or any newly branded version of that phrase. We've seen that the majority of Washingtonians believe that as well with us. We think we should give them more money for training, community outreach programs, trying to build that trust back with the communities. School resource officers are great resources because they'll build relationships with young people. So we'll start changing that narrative that that we should be fearful of police because most all of the vast majority of police officers are amazing, and they're saving our lives. They're keeping our families and communities safe every single day, risking their own. We do have some bad officers, and they should absolutely be held accountable for their actions. I think that it's just a matter of building that trust back with the community, and we have lots of legislation to do that. We're battling actually at 8 o'clock this morning, trying to make sure that we figure out ways in order to build those relationships again and to protect, to back our blue. I mean, we run away from danger when we see it. They run into danger when they see it. They never know when they leave in the mornings if they're going to make it home to their families. You and I don't worry about that as much as they need to worry about that. So just finding that balance has been really interesting. I love the committee. It's very challenging. I like big challenges. So, drugs is one of the answers we're trying to find, but the main focus in public safety is really about making sure that we find that balance between the communities and law enforcement.
One last question from me, Gina, and that is we've heard from constituents, we've heard from political leaders. I don't know really. We've heard a little bit from some of you elected folks. Dan Newhouse took the decision and the step to vote to impeach. Lot of comments, comments on our website and Facebook posts and all of that. Wondering if you have any thoughts on his decision, on what that means for everyone else's political future, yours, whomever. Thoughts in general?
Well, I think that until you're there, it's really difficult to make those decisions or decide how somebody should or should not have voted. And so I'm in the other Washington. I do respect Dan immensely. I can understand the situation that he's in, and he sees things that you and I can't see because we're not in Congress. So I have the utmost respect for him. I don't know that I would have voted that way, but I wasn't there. I mean, I believe in due process, and I feel like no matter who you are, if we don't set a precedent of being able to go through a procedure that is, constitutional, that we have the opportunity to defend ourselves in a court amongst our peers, and I think that's really important as well. So I wasn't there. I think he's an amazing man. He's done really great things for Washington State, and I just, until you're there, and I feel obviously much more about that now because we're in it every day, right? People, they see the headline of a bill and they're furious because you voted in a situation. But if you read the 55-page bill, often those people, and I'll send it to them. I'm often sending bills out to people who don't understand why I voted a certain way. And then 90% of the time they'll message me back and say, wow, I had no idea that was in the bill. So I think this is one of those situations, you and I couldn't see it, and I know he makes good decisions. I don't know that I would have made that particular decision, but again, I wasn't there.
Fair enough. I won't break out my Gina for Congress buttons just yet then. So there we go. Right on.
Well, I love serving where I'm at right now, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity, and thank you for allowing me to do that and to share, what's happening up there. I'm happy to reach out anytime. Again, we're mostly virtual, but that doesn't mean that you can't reach out via text, email, phone calls, and we Zoom very well now. We're finally getting the Zoom thing down, and we Zoom about 17 hours a day lately.
Wow. Jeez.
Representative Gina Mosbrucker, thank you very much for your time this morning and your information. We love the fact that you are so good at what you do in sharing what's going on with folks.
Yeah.
You are really on top of your game in that regard, and that makes everybody who listens, and there are thousands of them, have a real good idea of what's going on and what the fight is that you're up against and what it is that you're trying to accomplish on their behalf. So great job. We look forward to future chats, and thanks for your time this morning.
Happy to visit anytime, and thank you, and I'm honored to be able to serve you.